Ballad cable hook.
Okay, anyway, I'm Paul Sam, and I'm gonna shut up, and I'm gonna give it over here to Katie. Here, you got this. Yeah, no,
That's it?
Yeah, use it, that's
What
it.
do you want to hear?
Whatever you wanna
You ask
hear.
me questions and I'll.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, I
was
started
not prepared for
okay,
this.
I started working for Sam,
Because they can't hear.
on Straw Dogs. I was, in London, I just finished working for a producer. Working for a producer called Ronnie Khan. I did a movie with Ronnie Neem called Prudence and the Pill, which none of you would even notice.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it?
Really?
Yeah. I told them the film didn't work. You can't hear me?
70? Oh, you can't hear?
Can't hear?
Can we turn it up just? a
Yeah,
bit?
you're not hearing the mic really.
But you're probably better without the mic. And you're so
Oh,
quiet.
No,
not really.
not really.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
There.
It's gotta get close.
I just finished working with the producer. He'd gone back to the States, and someone said to me, "Do you want to work for Sam Peckinpah?" And I said, "I don't know who he is." And he said, "Well, he's here. He's preparing a movie called Straw Dogs." And so I went to meet him, and he said, "Can you type?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, sit down because I've met with about 5 or 6 different people who want to work for me, and they kept leaving, and they want to get their hair done, and I need you now." So I sat down, and the first thing he gave me was the rape scene from Straw Dogs, and that's what we started working on. And then we went all around the country on location. We went to the tip of Scotland to look for locations. We went all across Ireland. We went everywhere, and ended up in Cornwall. And shot the movie down in Cornwall, which is on the south coast of England. It's probably the coldest, most freezing time I've spent in my life. It was I've never been so cold. But that was my first experience with Sam. It was a very, very interesting time. I'd never sort of, here was I was an nice English Jewish girl from Hampstead, England. Grew up, in very close proximity to my parents. Went to English boarding school, and all of a sudden I was thrown into this Wild West character, because Straw Dogs, if you understand Sam's filmmaking, was basically a western set in Cornwall, in England. The posse was, the family, the siege of Trench's Farm was the attack on, in Wyatt Earp, or any of the westerns that you know. It's like it was the Bloody Porch. Bloody Porch from the Wild Bunch was the siege of Trench's Farm. Anyway, so after that.
Good night. Yeah, I wanted to ask a question, and I'm sure that it's all yours. That having started on Straw Dogs, your first Peckinpah film, and now all of a sudden you're doing that rape scene. How was that? I've heard varying stories, and there's.
And her whole career was based on that. But I was there for everything.
I have another question. I remember when I saw the film originally. Of course, it was obviously, as you say, kind of a crypto western, and also very much a suspense film, and also very much about male territory and all that. But to me, it's also the closest, other than Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, to a horror film in a sense. It seems to have that horror film.
I don't think
vibe.
either one of them were horror films.
Well, no, it never came up, because you got the isolated farmhouse, you have the people who are, kind of the inbred locals who are, like attacking the intellectuals. You've got them isolated. I mean, it's got all of these classic horror movie tropes in it, and I just was curious if anyone ever thought along those lines at all.
No.
Interesting.
Did anybody think of it as a horror film?
You know what I mean? I'm not saying
See
it
your point.
is a horror
See your
film.
point,
I'm
yeah.
just saying that, it seemed to share some generic components,
I mean, I've never, in all the time that I was with Sam, heard him talk about his love of the horror genre. So, so I don't know. But when the movie was over, Roger Spottiswoode, who was the director, he directed Under Fire and many films, and Garth Craven, they were editing, and very shortly, we moved back into Twickenham Studios and started the editing process. And Sam got a call saying, would you like to shoot Junior Bonner with Steve McQueen in Prescott, Arizona? We want to start shooting pretty quickly because we're shooting around. Have you seen Junior Bonner? We're shooting around an original rodeo, and the rodeo starts July. Can you be over here in 2 days? So he said yes, if I can bring my entire editing crew. So literally within 2 days of us starting editing, Roger Spotted with Garth Craven, Tony Lawson left for Prescott, Arizona, and set up editing rooms in the motel in Prescott, Arizona. And Sam said to me, next time, I'm in England, I look forward to working with you again and all the rest of it. And then I sort of closed down shop, but then 2 days later I got this call saying, get your fucking ass over here, we got a movie to make. So I went, Mommy, I'm going to America to do a rodeo picture. She said, you're going there? From Czechoslovakia. Doing a rodeo picture? Anyway, so I found myself in Prescott, Arizona doing, I think, one of the, Ballard Cable Hogan, Junior Bonner, both movies about Sam's sensitive side. Yeah. And both the movies about the end of the West, Steve McQueen comes riding into town, to his hometown, as a rodeo cowboy. His father is about to destroy their home and move, pack up and leave, and so it's the end of the West. And Ballard Cable Hogan, as you know, is anybody see Ballard Cable Hogan?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the classic, end of the wagon train and the beginnings of the motor car.
Right.
And it's the motor car that kills Cable, runs him over, and.
I would highly recommend for those of you who haven't seen those two films, because everyone calls him Bloody Sam and Blood and Gut Sam. These are two very gentle and very perceptive pictures about familial relations. There's a lot of families in these two. That's what they're actually about. And the Steve McQueen rodeo picture, Junior Bonner, I just saw recently again. I've been going through Sam's Oeuvre, as they say, on Blu-ray, and boy, does that hold up. And it's just a touching kind of slice of life, this little town, and oddly enough, I've been on the road for about 2 weeks from my own home on a road trip, and I just drove down from Colorado through Prescott.
Oh.
And I was driving through downtown Prescott.
Did you go to the bar and see his picture of the bar?
No, I drove through the main street though, and I recognized it from the parade scene that they had in the film, and it hasn't changed since 1972.
And that's why we had to rush there, because the parade was was the actual parade. But if you like Steve McQueen and you like the Wild West and rodeo picture, I mean,
it's a good movie.
It's a wonderful film. And working with Robert Preston and Ida Lupino. I mean, here I again, fresh out of England, and with sitting at the feet of some of the great legends of film. I mean, Robert Preston and Ida Lupino. I just sat there and listened, and I was sort of in awe. And here am I, my Gucci shoes and my pearls, in the middle of a rodeo, and then Steve McQueen opens the gate while the camera and all of us are in the middle of the what you call it?
Of all the films that you worked with on Sam, what was your personal favorite? And not only in terms, of course, of just the experience of making it, but actually the end product.
Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid.
Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid. Interesting.
Yeah, that was. I actually, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid was interesting because I only came in. Sam and I had a pretty tumultuous relationship. In the end of the getaway, he married someone who didn't want me around. So he called me and he said, Joey doesn't want you around. He said, I'm sorry, but you'll have to go. So I did. I went to England and went to work on a Sam Fuller picture called Riata, which was actually never completed with Sam. Do you ever see many Sam Fuller films?
It morphed into the Deadly Tractors with Rod Taylor and sheriff who.
Anyway, but it never got completed.
Yeah.
And we worked on that because Sam Fuller was told that the film didn't cut together. Anyway, so I then get a call from Sam saying, where are you? He said, are you still in Spain? And I said, no, I'm not in Spain. Our picture fell through. He said, good, Joey's gone and we're in Mexico and I need you. So I said, Mommy, I'm going to Mexico. And shot this movie in Durango, which I don't know if anybody knows, it's sort of the armpit of Mexico. I mean, you know, the trains go by every 3 days, and if you happen to be in the wrong place, people get killed on the railway tracks so many times because nobody knows that the train is coming. It's so distant. Anyway, that was with Bob Dylan, Chris Christopherson, James Coburn, and you know, we spent our nights in Durango having jam sessions with Dylan and Christopherson every night.
Wow.
For 6 months. You know, when I got back, everybody said to me, we got tickets for a Dylan concert. And I went, no more Dylan for a while. But that was, I mean, some of the things that happened on that picture, I could write a book. I mean,
Tell us one.
Oh, all right. Dylan had no idea about filmmaking, none. It was Chris Christopherson's idea to bring him down and give him a part. So Sam said, well, there's no part for him in the film. He said, write one. So the character was called Alias. You know, just Alias. And also he brought down his band. And Donnie Fritz was also in his band, and he was in the film. And I said that Sam said, there's no part for Donnie. He said, well, just have Donnie repeat everybody else's lines. So whenever anybody said anything, Donnie just repeated it. You're going to speak now? Am I waking you up? Should I wake you up? No.
It's Sunday. It's
Sunday.
Anyway, so Donnie Fritz's part was just to repeat everybody else's lines. But Dylan, some of the things we did with Dylan was hilarious. We would shoot a sequence. Who's seen Pat Garrett? Yeah. Remember the turkey sequence where they're chasing the turkeys? Anyway, we shot it all morning, and in the afternoon, we did the reverses. And Dylan shows up in a completely different outfit. And Sam said, we haven't finished shooting this scene, Dylan. And he said, why are you wearing a jacket? He said, it's cold. And Sam said, this is a movie, Dylan. We're shooting a scene, we haven't finished shooting it, you weren't wearing that jacket. And the best one was when Chris Christopherson is dead, when Pat Garrett is killed, Pat Garrett kills Billy the Kid.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out which one. Yes.
When he kills Billy the Kid, Billy the Kid is lying there, and the shot is Dylan coming out of Fort Sumner and walking up towards camera with Billy the Kid lying dead on the table. And Sam says, action. Dylan comes out of Fort Sumner, walks towards the camera, turns around, goes back into Fort Sumner, comes out wearing a poncho. And then comes to the camera and Sam says, why did you do that? Sam, it was cold. Why would he not be wearing a poncho when he came out of Fort Sumner in the middle of the night? And the final Dylan thing is, because I mean, this has got to be in the book. We were shooting James Coburn riding off into the sunset. We'd waited for golden hour for days, and Sam says action, and in the background is Dylan and Harry Dean Stanton jogging. Right in the back of camera. So Sam says, cut! And Harry Dean Stanton comes running up to Sam. Sam, I saw Dylan running, I saw him jogging, and I tried to stop him. That's why I was following him. Anyway, so the Pat Garrett stories, I mean, for me, working with Sam was one thing, but working with Sam on Pat Garrett and doing a Western, I mean, you know, that's all that my filmmaking career has been about, is working with Sam on Pat Garrett. But Garcia.
That's what I was gonna be the next question. Let's talk about that for a little.
Well, he wrote it. He wrote it in collaboration with Walter Kelly and Frank Kowalski, and it was his baby. And the person who allowed him to make it was Marty Baum, who was the producer, was with ABC Films when we did Straw Dogs.
Yeah.
And he was the one who produced it and allowed Sam complete director's privilege. He could do anything he wanted on it. And it was the movie he wanted to make with no interference from anybody. Which most of the films that he did, I mean, Pat Garrett really the kid. James Aubrey was head of MGM at the time.
Smiling Cobra.
Smiling Cobra and Dan Melnick were cutting their version of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which, by the way, I stole the Sam's cut and kept it in the fridge while on the lot where we would do editing, while James Aubrey and Dan Melnick were editing their version.
For those of you who have only seen the theatrical release of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, you really should see it on DVD restored, because there's bookends where it actually all takes place within the moments of Pat Garrett's death.
Yeah.
It's years. It opens years after the events you see in the film, and he's essentially an old man who's been ambushed because he's no longer politically expedient. And James Coburn is just riddled with gunfire, and he's falling off his horse in slow motion. It's all a flashback in his head. And at the end, he dies.
Because Pat Garrett was assassinated by the people he hired to kill Billy the Kid, so it became full circle.
Yeah, so I highly recommend going in. If you haven't seen it for a while, go out and see the uncut version that's out on DVD.
There's a box set of Sam's westerns.
Yeah, Sam Peckinpah's westerns. Yeah, it's really
The Wild Bunch, Ride the High Country.
And also, there's the continuity of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid was fiddled with as well by Aubrey, and it's just much smoother, and it's a more elegiac film. You were talking about the death of the West. I mean, this one really is about the death.
One of the most symbolic death of the West was the tugboat going down the river with James Coburn having a shooting match with the guy on the boat, just shooting at bottles, and they wanted to take that out. Well, they did take it out, but it's back in the DVD version.
Now, let me for just a moment. I saw Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia with Richard when it first came out. Richard Allen.
Yeah, was that at the California Theater?
No, it was at the North Park.
Oh,
remember the old North Park Theater?
Yeah.
And Richard fell asleep 5 minutes into it, snored through the whole thing. That was Richard. But I remember after I came out of that. Now that movie was universally panned and reviled. The Hero of America when it first came out. People said, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing that's been ever done. It makes no sense. It's just this wallow and sleaze." I came out of that movie thinking this is probably the most personal movie I've ever seen from Sam Peckinpah. There were so many analogs to what I thought were the problems he had in his own life, the problems he had with making movies, the problems that that he had with his interpersonal relationships.
That was his head. People would constantly say, "Bring me the head of Sam Peckinpah." I mean, not in those words, but and Warren Oates played Sam. I mean, the way he played him, the way he portrayed his character, that was Sam.
Yeah, with the sunglasses and the attitude and the low voice and everything. That's exactly how Peckinpah was in real life. And apparently Sam didn't get it at first that Warren was playing him. And
he never really got it. But I think when in retrospect, I think he realized what Warren was doing.
And also, it's such a bleak film too. I mean, everyone is tainted in that movie in some way or another, except for
the two gay feds.
Yeah, well, that was very strange. Yeah, and then of course the horrible real life tragedy of Gig Young not long afterwards. Like killing himself and his wife, and he's playing. And you look at the expression of Gig on that film, and it's kind of frozen in that I really think Alfredo Garcia is one of the most underrated of his pictures. I think it is really an incredible movie. It's just that it's so off-putting on so many ways, but I think it really distilled a lot of Sam's inner convictions about life and about relationships and people and being used and money and friendship that, you know, like falls apart, and alcohol, and it's also like such an alcohol-soaked movie.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost like a hallucination, you know, like a fever dream. I love that film, by the way.
It
I've
is.
seen it
If
many
you haven't
times.
seen it, it's,
Yeah, you get a question, Mike?
yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, when it came out and I went to see it here in San Diego, I thought it was the advertising for it was so terrible. I thought it was going to be a schlocky B movie because they were advertising, come see, there's like 45 deaths in it or something.
And with me feeding him whiskey intravenously.
Yeah, on an
And-
IV, it's
and
like a
with an
fifth.
IV going into his arm, with a fifth of whiskey coming out. And James Coburn is carrying, and all the cast are carrying the gurney. And the picture, the quote on the picture was, "There is no rumor that Sam Peckinpah is too drunk to direct." But you know, but I was you know the one that always the person that had to sort of, you know, I was the go-between. You know, like on Convoy, for instance. You know, Sam was in on Convoy. Sam did actually have major problems. You know, I was the one who had to say, you know, Sam's not going to come out of the trailer until the prop guy gets his expenses paid, you know, which was an excuse for the fact that, you know, Sam couldn't come out of the trailer. So there was difficulties, you know, towards the end, but Sam was in constant battle with the producers, with the studios. He was always, you know, I mean, he did a movie many years before with Marty Ranzerhoff, with Steve McQueen, which he was fired on. What was the movie, the Steve McQueen film?
The Cincinnati Kid.
Cincinnati Kid. He was fired off that one. So Ride the High Country was, you know, was well received, but didn't have much of a release. So he was underrated until the Wild Bunch, and then after the Wild Bunch, you know, everybody wanted him, and then he was a very enigmatic, very difficult person. But I wouldn't have given up those 7 years for anything, because I learned more about movie making, and I mean, he was a genius. I mean, he was, you know, had he continued, you know, in that vein, he had many more movies left to make, but unfortunately he died.
Very good.
After Austin Weekend, you know, he was only 59.
And also, here's a little interesting tidbit. I'm sure that there might be one or two cineasts out there, but Sam's career started as being an assistant to Don Siegel, the director Donald Siegel. So, like, you know, the guy who made Dirty Harry and the guy who Escaped from Alcatraz, and of course many other films before that in the 50s and the 60s that were great. So Sam really had a good teacher there too.
Yeah. What was the horror film he did with
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And Sam is actually
in the
that.
end, running that they'll never catch him now, and that's Sam.
Yeah, that's Peckinpah. Yeah, he's got a little bit part of that. Yeah.
But his career, you know anything about his TV career before he started making film? He was one of the writer-producers of The Rifleman. He did some excerpts of Wyatt Earp, but his most important series was the Westerner with Brian Keith.
And
Which was
dog.
about a man and his dog,
Yeah.
which was only 13 episodes, but became a real classic.
And you know, they do, if you have a satellite, they do Dish Network and DirecTV occasionally on their respective Western channels do repeat the Westerner, and it's really worth seeing. It was a really unusual, particularly for a period of time when literally every other station had, you know, like another Western on. Westerns were at their zenith. But the Westerner is just a really interesting take on that whole genre, something very unusual, very different, well worth looking at. Also, a lot of Sam's eventual, you know, ensemble company showed up in the Westerner too. A lot like Warren Oates and people like that, and, you know. As long as you don't hit the deck, we'll. It's okay, we understand. Anybody have any questions for Katy? Yeah, Mike.
Well, I came a little late, forgive me if you've already talked about this, but you worked on Cross of Iron, right?
Yes.
That, I mean, I saw that when it came out. I thought it was a really unusual picture. I really liked it, but it seemed like an anti-war picture from the standpoint of a German soldier. I just,
Yeah.
you could.
Well, Wolfgang Hartwig, who was a German producer, you know, which was bad enough already because Sam had, you know, was hugely anti-German, and Wolfgang Hartwig was a producer who kept telling everybody that he was a general in the Panzer Division and still had the bullets to show it. But he brought this Eisener Kreuz, the Cross of Iron, to Sam, and Sam actually loved the idea of doing a movie about the common soldier, where it really didn't matter which side of the war. So for him, it was quite a step into a new direction. But if you watch very closely, it's yet again it's the Wild West, but in Russia, and it was just a story about the common soldier who was thought he was fighting for the right reason. I mean, not all the German soldiers were Nazis. Some of them were just the common soldier, like the Russian soldiers. So it's a story about a platoon, on the Russian border, or on the Russian border in Russia. The war that finally killed Hitler, which was had Hitler gone in the opposite direction and tried to defeat the British, none of us would be here today. But because he, like Napoleon, couldn't resist, trying to get to Moscow, that's what killed the German soldier and the German army, thank God. But it's a story about a platoon who, ended up dead on the Russian front. And I thought, I thought it was a wonderful film.
Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah.
Well, you told me a story about Sam, as I recall, was sort of starting a riot at a pulque bar in Mexico. Was that during Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid?
It was a story that.
He was in a lot of bars and started a lot of riots.
Yes, I'm trying to.
He was also
L.Q. Jones told me this story. That they were in the company van and they were either going to and from location, and Sam all of a
On the
sudden.
Wild Bunch?
No, this would be in Mexico City, I think.
Then it was Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
Yeah, and well, maybe it was the Wild Bunch. I can't remember, but in any event, they were going down the street and they have the working men pulque bars. Now, pulque is like there's tequila and then there's another version of it. Pulque is pretty much like the basic stuff that comes out of the guave plant, and they have working men bars are essentially.
Down to Cornwall, and the cast party was at on Crescent Street at a private club, and it was my job to hire the hookers. And so I was sort of the madam of the party. During this party, during the party, T.P. McKenna, who played the mayor, was dancing on the table with one of the hookers during the party, and fell. And I don't know if you remember in Straw Dogs that the mayor plays the part with his arm in a sling because he broke his arm falling off the table at the free cast party before we went down. So that's what it's like working for Sam Peckinpah. It has many levels of services and responsibilities that I had on, but it was there was nobody ever like him, and there never will be.
How did Dustin Hoffman and Sam get on while they were making the movie?
Interestingly enough, Mantrap, which is the making of Straw Dogs, I did the interview with Dustin. I don't know if anybody's seen